Hi guys, today in art history we're talking about Asian art. So we all know we're in Asia now, and so we're going to talk about like the whole ASEAN area, but we will spend several lessons talking about Cambodian art in particular. But today we're not really talking about Cambodian art. We'll get to that in another week or two. So we're talking Asian art, which was 3000 BC and 1300 AD. So that BC means pretty much before like Jesus Christ was born. And then the AD, Ados Domini, it means like after Christ's death. So Chinese artists, they were really interested in swirling brush lines. So swirling means that they liked it not straight, flat. It was very curvy and organic. They were interested in nature, animals, trees, flowers, rocks, water. Chinese artists wanted to express the relationship between people and nature. So they have a lot of elements that kind of go together. I don't know if in Khmer you guys have heard the phrase feng shui. That's like the flow of energy. But there is also a lot of big changes in Chinese art. Some of this was caused by new ideas within China. And some of the new ideas also came from India, Central Asia, or West Asia. So we even know this in Angkor Wat. If we look at that, we can look at the carvings on the side of Angkor Wat, and we know that some of our ideas came from India. In the Stone Age, Chinese artists were experimenting a lot with pottery. So they were decorating the pots. We find a lot of swirling brushwork on the pots, and that continues all the way throughout Chinese art. It began back in the Tang Dynasty. So that was like the empire, like the Angkor Empire and the different empires that we had in Cambodia. China had the same, and this was done in the Tang Dynasty. Instead of empire, they call it dynasty. Artists also cast bronze jars and molds with designs of dragons, elephants, and other creatures. During the Chu Dynasty, Chinese artists also began to make all kinds of lacquered boxes. They began to paint landscapes and people on silk cloth. This is an example of a painting on silk cloth. When Chinese people learned about Buddhism under the Han Dynasty, they also learned about Buddhist art styles in India. And these new styles had a huge effect on Chinese art. Chinese sculptors learned to make life-size stone statues. About the same time, traders on the Silk Road began to bring Roman-blown glass to China. I also am going to include another video to talk more about the Silk Road, so make sure you guys watch that as part of your assignment this week. Chinese potters, perhaps trying to imitate blown glass, they soon started to use what was called porcelain. Porcelain. Around the same time, Chinese artists invented paper, and they began to use that for painting on. So the Chinese were the ones who actually invented the paper that we write on. By the time of the Three Kingdoms, 220 to 520 AD, Chinese paintings began much more important. Artists began with swirling brushstrokes to create striking lines. The Tang Dynasty, they began to paint pictures of people, horses, elaborate landscapes. They had a lot of influence by Taoism and Confucianism. Artists began to be concerned about line. So they had a lot of one simple line was used to make a whole cliff. So they began to use line. But all of it was mostly organic line. There was not a lot of geometric shapes. They began to draw just one flower, one bird. They didn't have a lot of busyness. They kept it pretty simple. So Buddhists had a lot of influence. The Chinese had a lot of influence from other countries. The introduction of Buddhism happened in China in the 6th